What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Blake Williamson. Blake, we have got something to talk about. Shohei Ohtani, to be specific, as the All-Star Game comes to a conclusion in Dodgerland. The only thing anybody wants to talk about is Shohei Ohtani, Blake, and that's because of this. When asked who he is most impressed by in Major League Baseball, his answer was Los Angeles' own Mookie Betts. Here was the exact quote, Blake, and then I'll ask you, is this a big deal or no deal? Quote, not just today, but just watching guys overall, I feel like Mookie Betts really impresses me. He's so versatile. He can play the outfield, play the middle infield. I think he's very, very talented. Big deal or no deal, Blake, that Shohei Ohtani, pending free agent, best player in baseball, singled out the Dodgers' Mookie Betts?
Yeah, I think it's something that's kind of fun to joke about from he's going to be a free agent soon and possibly traded, and the Dodgers are probably going to be in that mix. But I don't think it's a huge deal other than that. Like, if we're being honest, pretty much all of us are impressed by Mookie Betts on a baseball field, and it's no different for Ohtani. He's just like kind of one of us, I guess. But Dave Roberts was saying earlier this year that Mookie Betts and Ohtani are like the only comparables in terms of their versatility. And of course, Ohtani's doing something that isn't really comparable to anyone, but there's not many players who are playing shortstop and right field at a high level. And that's kind of the point Dave Roberts was making. They're just both really unique players on the field. So I guess that's kind of where some of the praise from Ohtani's coming from. He's like, there's someone who's kind of doing something similar to what I can do, just not at that same level.
Yeah, and they both seem like similar guys. They're guys that are always seem to be smiling. They seem to not only be incredible baseball players who have some versatility, but from a personality perspective, it seems like they're both guys who are incredibly well liked by everybody around them. I'm curious from your perspective, Blake, as we kind of draw this out a little bit. Do you think Ohtani gets traded? I mean, obviously, I would have been at 100% no prior to Mike Trout's injury. Mike Trout now being out for an extended period of time. And definitely hurts the Angels' postseason chances. They are below 500 right now. I think it was pointed out to me that they open up the second half against the Astros and against the Yankees in some order. And so I would say it's definitely trending. It's more likely today than pre-Trout injury that Ohtani gets traded. I'm not quite sure if I'm ready to say he will get traded, but where are you at on that? Do you think Ohtani gets moved and the Angels jumpstart the rebuild by actually cashing in their chips on Ohtani, or is Artie Moreno going to just white knuckle this thing till the end?
Yeah, you gotta kind of feel for the Angels a bit. It's been a long time since they've been in the postseason, like 2014, and they got close this year, kind of, and then they started to fall off now. So I think they would be smart to trade Ohtani, and there's some reports that they're kind of keeping the door open on possibly moving him, but ultimately, I don't think they end up trading him. It's hard to trade a player like that. Like, he's arguably the greatest athlete ever in history, regardless of any sport. So it's just, you can't really kind of trade that player from your front office perspective and ownership. You would make fans mad. There's never going to be a good enough return for that kind of player. And they still need to try and get into the postseason. Maybe they make some magical run at the end. You can't just totally sell out on your last chance to sell Ohtani that he should stay with your team.
I'm gonna pause the greatest athlete of all time. That can be a conversation for another video possibly. But I'm with you. I just think Artie Moreno is really really stubborn, and I can't imagine that he's gonna want to trade him, because I do think if they trade him, that would be a really hard thing to come back from in free agency. And I'm assuming the Angels would be interested in pursuing Ohtani in free agency. I think if you trade him away, it's hard to say now come back. Don't worry about it. Um, and on the flip side, if I'm an Angels fan, I would absolutely want them to sell Ohtani, because I wouldn't feel great about his odds of coming back, and they could cash in. Now, would Artie Moreno make a trade with the Dodgers? I would say unlikely. But if Andrew Friedman called him up and overwhelmed him and said, hey, we've got 7 guys in the top 100, kind of take your pick of 4 of those, and here's 3 more guys that are probably on the fringe of being top 100 guys, and let's make a deal. I think Friedman might be desperate enough because of the Dodgers' needs and how perfectly Ohtani fits in a lot of ways, as well as because they want to be able to sell him on being a Dodger for a couple of months beforehand. I'll end the video with one more question. If Ohtani, though, is not moved, Blake, where are you at on the Dodgers' chances in free agency? We know he wanted to stay on the West Coast. He's tried out the Angels. didn't make the playoffs at any point. And yet, I think Jeff Passan made a great point on the Bill Simmons or Ryan Russillo podcast. I forget which one he was on, but he basically said, hey, Ohtani has found a rhythm. The Angels have found an ability that has brought the best out of him as far as when he takes batting practice, when he pitches bullpens. He has found a rhythm within the Angels organization. He has a comfort level that has led to success. So I wouldn't say the Angels are totally out of it, but we know originally he wanted to stay on the West Coast. Seattle, I do think is a dark horse because of the Ichiro connection and just because of how good they are. If they're willing to pony up $500 or $600 million for Ohtani, something that they haven't done, made huge splashes in free agency. But the Dodgers are the obvious one. They're on the West Coast. They're willing to spend the money. They give him a chance to win. The Padres, if they still have more money to spend, are an option. I think we can cross the A's off the list of West Coast teams that Ohtani might be interested in. The Giants, I could see making a splash. San Francisco, a very international city as well. So, how do you like the Dodgers' chances if Ohtani makes it to free agency without sort of being traded and signing an extension?
I think the Dodgers are the favorites, and that's kind of the industry consensus that they're considered the favorites. They kind of match all of Ohtani's check marks in terms of they win and they win a lot. They have the money and the location.
Yeah,
So when you're coming from it from that point, like the Dodgers are a perfect match. Whether that's what Ohtani truly wants remains to be seen. I do think the Mariners, like you said, are also a very good possibility there, and they're probably the second favorite team in my view. And then the Giants are also up there. I'm just not sure if he's going to want to go there when they haven't been winning too much either recently.
yeah,
So the Dodgers should be considered the favorite. Of course, the Mets and Yankees are going to be thrown in there in terms of payroll and all that and what they can do. But I'm not sure I see either of them really. Everyone's going to say Cohen's going to throw all the money at Ohtani, but the Mets are going to hit the 90% threshold tax. So essentially, if they're paying Ohtani 50 million a year, that's going to become close to 100 million a year,
yeah,
and they're never going to be able to get under that luxury tax, and that's going to go up to 110. So like if they give Ohtani 500 million, it's going to go up to a billion in his contract with that luxury tax. So
yeah.
I know Cohen has a lot of money, but I don't think he's going to be willing to make that kind of investment. So yeah, I think the Dodgers are the favorite in terms of everything considered.
Well, and the Yankees just gave out a huge contract to Aaron Judge. Not to say that money is finite, but I just keep coming back to the guy wanted so desperately to be on the West Coast originally that he chose the Angels. I just find it hard to believe that he would move off of that for any reason. I think he can get the money wherever he goes. At the same time, money wasn't his primary factor. Like he could have waited a few years to come over initially and made hundreds of millions of dollars. Instead, he signed for the maximum he could, which was like $25 million and played on a rookie contract, basically. And so I like the Dodgers' chances. If the Angels are willing to trade him, I would say the Dodgers would be the favorite to trade for him with the caveat of Artie Moreno. Can the Dodgers send enough prospects to get over the Artie Moreno is pissed off at the Dodgers tax? And then if that doesn't happen, I do think the Dodgers, like you said, are going to be the favorite. So whether or not Mookie Betts is going to be the primary reason because of how much Shohei Ohtani likes Mookie Betts, to be determined. But hey, I'll say this, Blake. It doesn't hurt that he loves Mookie Betts and finds him to be the guy that he is most impressed with in the world of baseball. Because hey, he would be leaving Mike Trout, and so if he finds a guy in the next place that is at least somewhat comparable to Mike Trout, that won't hurt a lick. That's Blake Williams. My name is Jeff Spiegel. Make sure you stay tuned here. Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube. We'll have all the latest once the trade deadline gets closer and closer. We even have a trade deadline preview piece coming in the next couple of days. We had a special guest. We named 7 or 8 guys, including Ohtani, that the Dodgers could be interested in pursuing at the trade deadline and who could be available. That's Blake. I'm Jeff. As always, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day and go Dodgers.